Welcome to the Your Data Driven podcast. If you like this podcast, be sure to visit our website at yourdatadriven.com for more useful help and advice on setting up your race car, mastering data analysis, and driving faster. Welcome to episode 10. I'm absolutely delighted to welcome ex-Formula 1 driver Perry McCarthy to the show. A lifelong member of the Rat Pack that counts other famous drivers such as Damon Hill, Johnny Herbert and Martin Brundle amongst its peers, Perry is possibly most famous for being the original Stig in Top Gear. In this show, we delve deep into the mind of the racing driver and try and work out how he was able to be so fast so quickly and how you can try and take some of his concepts and his learning and apply that to your own driving. So sit back and enjoy this fun, light-hearted show. I did have some technical problems recording the show, so apologies that the sound quality is not up to the normal standard. I hope you're still able to enjoy the conversation. Well, hi Perry, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
My pleasure.
It would just be wonderful to hear a little bit about your backstory. Some people know you for different reasons. So, yeah, but we're fascinated to hear obviously a little bit about the Top Gear experience and the Stig. But for the audience listening, maybe there's 2 or 3 takeaways that you can maybe share, perhaps on the more practical side, on the driving side, that would be really, really useful for them and that maybe they hadn't thought of before.
Don't do it.
Yeah, great, good start.
Cheaper, safer, more productive for the society.
Yeah,
there you go.
That didn't take long, did it?
Lots of money, so send some through to me.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your story then. How did you get into racing? Because you didn't grow up with racing, I don't think.
No, I didn't even follow it. I really didn't. I remember being at school and a pal of mine just saying to me, some bloke called James Hunt has won the Formula 1 World Championship, and I'd never even seen a race, So, wow. And then when I got to college, I'd started driving, and I found that I did have a bit of a knack for driving. Now, unfortunately, it was on the road and it was a little bit too quick. But I was, no good at football or rugby or any of the other stuff. I was quite good at gymnastics, actually. But all the other stuff, I was just no good. But suddenly I found that I could actually drive cars, and it just seemed to be really, really natural to me. So there was that instant fit. Even though my car was a 90-pound piece of junk Ford Escort Mark 1 with the paint falling off it, but it's like, it's step by step.
At that age, it's freedom though, isn't it?
Well, absolutely, it really was. That's exactly right. But there was a pal of mine at college, and he was massively into Formula 1. Okay. And he started talking about it, and I went to a Group C race with him, and I was looking at these guys thinking, I think I could drive as fast as that, but it was so naive. It really was, Don't let intelligence follow this story, And then he started bringing in copies of a super magazine called Grand Prix International and had these really beautiful photographs of Formula 1 cars in action. And one of my subjects at college was art. So I kept drawing these cars. Okay. And then I was reading about these drivers and reading about the races. Then I started watching BBC late on Sunday night. When it used to, have the Grand Prix, and I was totally, absolutely hooked. Yeah. And eventually I made the plunge and went to Brands Hatch Racing. Well, actually, that's a story in itself, because I beg your pardon.
Well, I was going to say, wasn't it a friend of yours or someone you were working with? Yeah.
Exactly. As a part-time job, I played piano a little bit, so I was demonstrating keyboards in a music shop. Okay. And this old guy walked in and started saying, what are you going to do? And, me being mouthed, he said, I'm going to be a Formula 1 driver. Well, I didn't realise my mate who owned the shop had set this up. He was the chief instructor of Brands Hatch Racing, Les Ager. And Les said, right, I've heard about you. You're coming with me, So Bobby, who owned the shop, said, go and get lost. So went straight to Brands Hatch. Yeah. Guy put me in the car. And I drove him around, Jack the lad, here's how to do it, mate. I'm so good. Yeah. And now, at that time, Les must have been 60, something like that. He then got in the car and showed me what somebody who was good could do. And he scared the living daylights out of me while being much safer.
Exactly, yeah.
So he was so good. And I just sat there and towel between my legs a little bit. So he said, look, you've got something. Now give it another go. And I just absolutely took on everything Les had done. And at the end of it, Les was, he was quite an excitable chap. And he was just screaming, oh, my lovely boy.
But that's a really good point, though, you make. So, and I've talked about this before with other people, about that transition between having that confidence in a fast car, maybe on the road, and sitting in the pub talking about it, and then you look at the cars going round. If you do go to a race or whatever, and you think, well, that doesn't look too bad, does it? Because the quick ones are all in control, aren't they? So I can do that, And then you actually go and do it. And then, So what thinking when that point, because Les probably went round and he must have been quite a bit quicker than you on that, if you had a lap time or anything. Were you like, how has he done that?
Yeah, I just noticed that he was kind of, once I'd sat down and thought about it, with me it was all ballsy stuff, but I was probably behind the car, so the car was probably going faster than me. I was just catching up with it. And that's where people become really rough with a car, because if it's happening to them, they're playing catch up. So whatever car you're in, however fast you're going, and I would say this obviously with Formula One and everything else, mentally, whatever speed that car's capable of, you've got to actually be just a little bit faster than there to make sure that it's coming with you. So it's a very different philosophy. Otherwise, you can get yourself in loads and loads of trouble if you're behind it and playing catch up. So that was the thing I took on. And when I did go back out with Les again in the passenger seat, actually I was an awful lot better.
Okay.
So he'd kind of just shown me some of the things that, rather than maybe some of the things to do, he'd probably shown me the big things not to do. And sometimes if you're looking at your own driving, is that trying to fill in those gaps, rather than trying to be mega, is that just cover where you are going wrong, and that makes you better anyway. It's probably the same with absolutely anything. If you look at, where you're going wrong, trying to fill in those gaps. And the thing is, it's so easy if you enjoy it and if you're passionate about it, because you really want to spend the time. Okay, where can I be better? And that feeling has never lost me in absolutely anything I do. I mean, even, across the years, I've been, fortunate enough to set a whole bunch of pole positions or whatever. And I get out of the car and I go, yes, faster. Yeah. Just a small amount of time. Then I'm going, right, cocked up there. Maybe I was a little bit bad, and you start thinking, where can I be better? But anybody who forges a career in this, I suspect they'll be pretty much the same.
There must have been, just to roll back to that point where there was a point of decision, really, when you've been demonstrated by Les how to go round, and then you've got a choice then of either go, yeah, I'm going to learn from that, or you can dismiss it as, what I mean? There's this sort of a mindset of like, actually, there's more going on here. I'm going to grab that and try and learn it. Or
Samir, don't overrate me on how I was thinking back then. I suddenly found something that I thought, this is it. I'd kind of always known as a kid, the thing about me is that I'd always felt that once I found something I really wanted, it would be switch down, lock down, fuse, and that's it from that point on. So I believe I was a terribly fortunate person to have that opportunity of finding exactly what I wanted to do. Yeah. But before you start thinking I'd analysed everything so cleverly, I hadn't. I just made the decision afterward that Les said, you've got to be a racing driver.
Okay.
Yeah, he did. And this is going to sound a little bit self-serving, but he said I was the best he'd ever seen. No, he'd only started the day before, but, it's... so I took that as a real big compliment. And then after a quick bit of research, what I brilliantly found, was that motor racing is quite expensive. So you need to be paying for this somewhere. Yeah. And even to get an absolute start. And remember, I was 18 at this time, so there was no question of trying to go through the karting route, etc. Anyway, I found out about it. Formula Ford is really the way to go. So I went to work on North Sea oil rigs for just over 2 years, again, while I was at college as well.
Yeah.
And I was getting paid a lot of money on the oil rigs. It was tough going.
Was that with your dad, was it?
Dad was a painter and decorator, but suddenly he got the contract to paint oil rigs. They never liked pink, but apart from that. So anyway, I was out there as a labourer, a shop blaster, scaffolder, everything else. The first time I actually went onto the rigs, I was actually too young to be out there. I was actually only 17, believe it or not.
Gosh. Yeah.
So, but it was like 12, 14 hours a day, sometimes 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you're on there for 2 to 3 weeks at a time.
Wow.
And I always remember these, we used to have to make these scaffold platforms below a helideck or something really high up above the sea. The only way to do it was to shimmy down a scaffold tube, which is about 21 foot, with a little T-bar at the bottom, and that's all you're holding on to above the ocean, while somebody else hands down another bar, your mate over there, and you start building the platform like that. Now that improves your grip. So
yeah.
It was, I haven't got the violin out, but what I am saying is that I was quite young to be out there, and all my pals back at college were raving out pubs every night, clubs or whatever. Yeah. So you're just going, I'm sorry, I can't do any of that. Yeah, I did spend a few bob when I got back home. I think sociologists call it explosive compensation. So I did make up for it a little bit. I was banking quite a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I used that to actually kick off in motor racing. And there was a team fairly local to me. And I called them up and they put me in the car. And I think the first race I went out in, I put it on pole. Behind the scenes that I didn't know coming through was Johnny Herbert.
Yeah.
But John and I hadn't actually met when I first kicked off. Johnny was making a big name for himself in karting.
Yeah.
I think Essex-wise, one thing, and I can't remember if I put this, I think I put it in my book, I can't remember. But this guy used to have workshops next to his house, yeah? And it was on this main road, and that's where he ran his Formula Fords from, yeah? But right next door to him was an undertaker. Now, the way I was driving, he kind of cut out the middleman. They started taking a big interest in the way I was driving and, measured me up and everything. I think it's the first 6 races in the Dunlop Style Tomorrow Championship. I think I set 3 poles, maybe 4, but I think it was definitely 3 out of 6 races. But I crashed in everything because I just didn't know what I was doing, I was naturally fast, but that was driven probably more from bravery than outright skill. There was clearly some skill there, I guess. But it just wasn't coming together. I was over the top. Because at that age, I mean, by the time I was out there, you have to remember, years have passed now. I was like 21. I only started motor racing to go to Formula One. My ambition was to say, I'm going Formula One. End of story. Nothing else existed. So I had a bit of time to make up. And all the people I was against had been in karting, been in this, been in that. So it was a bit of a challenge to come straight in and beat them all, and I did. In the next year, I won the Dunlop Championship, and I would have won the other championship as well, but we just didn't have enough money to keep going, Yeah, I kind of look back and do smile a little bit because I probably had some balls outside the cockpit as well, making sure that F1 teams knew I was around, and the newspapers knew I was around, and keeping in touch with Autosport and developing a relationship with Motoring News, and so there was that. I knew that you had to stand out to get noticed, but what I'd already been learning from walking around industrial estates, knocking on door after door after door, trying to see the managing director to help, try and get him to part with a few £100.
What gets me is that sometimes people, I don't know, this is just my experience, that people don't even think about sponsorship or racing or getting someone else to pay for or contribute towards their racing. I mean, what would you say to that? Have you got any thought? Because you've just gone of like, I'm just going to go and get some money, I'm going to knock on everyone's door. For people club racing, how can they help with their budget?
There's quite a few answers to that. For me personally, if you can go club racing, if you can keep the budgets down and if you can afford it, then just go and do it. Now, the magic wand of a sponsor, unless you're terribly lucky, doesn't exist. So if you do want to go the sponsorship route, the amount of work involved in it and the amount of disappointment time after time after time and getting messed around and everything else, that it might take the enjoyment away of just going racing. Throw an engine in, if they're good with the spanners, if they know what they're doing, that's all part and parcel of it. If they can, occasionally buy a new set of tyres or whatever, at whatever level, if they can go and enjoy it, fantastic. If they're salivating to say, I need to win, and there's somebody out there spending a few more bob and they're hell-bent on doing that, then and they need help, then okay, then they've got to form a sponsorship proposal. You can't expect people to just hand you money, so you develop what's in it for them. How can, if I'm coming to you and just saying, hey, Samir, listen, I really want a few bob to go racing. And you're going, and I say, yeah, but hang on. I can get you in the local newspapers. I can have friends or clients of yours come to the track. I can be available to come with the car to your offices to engage the staff. So whatever the budget is, you kind of think, okay, what am I prepared to do back to provide? It's just goods and services. But it is an industry in itself. And then to compound that problem, in order to even do that properly, you need a load of time to do it. Imagine they haven't got the budget for a championship. Well, if they're comfortable with that, then they just do the races that they can, have a wonderful time when they can do it, and then regroup for the following year. But, nothing's for nothing. It takes a huge, huge amount of work. Unless you've got very wealthy family, or your family are horribly connected to somebody who's terribly wealthy with a big company, and there's all sorts of ways around it.
That's a really good point, because it is about enjoyment at a club level.
Yeah, I think so. With me, it was like I started winning a lot. I put it on pole a lot. And so the plan, if there was one, which was a very loose plan, Formula One or bust, that was it, started coming together. But then, unfortunately, the second race of the following season, I had a huge crash. And I was on virtually 2 and 6pence of a budget anyway, but that destroyed the car, broke my back, put me out of racing for a whole bunch of, pretty much for that year, So then I started working on, okay, come back, and now it was going to be Formula Ford again. So this is like my first year was 6 races, second year, yeah, great, 20 races, 12 wins, I think it was, 6 seconds, so that was great. Third year, Formula Ford again, didn't want to be doing that, and now a big crash. And now fourth year, no budget, got to go back to Formula Ford, but this time, the whole thing was about getting to Formula 3.
Yeah. We
had a tiny budget in 1985 to go racing, just at a time when you're against Damon, Mark Blundell, Bertrand Gachot. There was a whole, Johnny, a whole host of people out there who were terrific drivers, but with great budgets. And, it's just, that was it. So 1985 was really bad for me. I was kind of toward the front end, but really not at the front end with that bunch. And then you start going, is this because I'm not testing, or is this because I'm not good enough? And the doubts creep in. But then, being confident, I was thinking, well, no, I know I can do this. And then suddenly a huge amount of work that year paid off, where I managed to get a really good budget to go Formula 3. And then suddenly answer my own questions, because thank goodness I was instantly at the front in Formula 3.
What is it that enabled you to do that? This is my question. Do you know how it is, or that you're able to drive quickly?
I don't completely know, to be honest. I think there's some personality traits that kind of fit motor racing. I don't know if I've ever been competitive against anybody else, but I'm horribly competitive against myself. If you were quicker than me, I'm not blaming you and thinking, oh, can't stand you and everything else. I'm blaming me, thinking, well, I should be faster. So that's the way I dealt with it. I've got only a few attributes, Samir. So I've always had this, a real ability to concentrate. I mean, concentrate at huge lengths of time. And I still do that with some of the things I'm on. So I can be completely and absolutely lost in space, to the frustration of a lot of people who live here, I might add, because they call it peri-world. But that's the thing, is that I can completely immerse myself in what is needed, and also what I'm prepared to do to do it. So that's where my own motto kicked off, which is whatever it takes.
That's a really good point, that concentration, because and you're driving around and then your mind just starts wandering off onto stuff and you're thinking, hang on a second, And you start making mistakes at that point.
Samir, the cars you drive are quick. If that's happening to you, stop bloody driving. Yeah? It's like your cars are fast, you know? If you start singing something from The Wizard of Oz as you're entering Cops Corner at 120 miles an hour, it's time to stop. Yeah, it's like you've got to be thinking. You can't just do that. My mind wandered off.
I'll have to edit that bit out in case my wife hears it. No, but it's true. It's that ability to concentrate. When you get to the point of driving quickly, you can do a hot lap every now and again, but it's all the little mistakes that you're making all the way around that are costing you the time and making you inconsistent. But that ability to concentrate is going to reduce those errors.
I'm not really clear about this. I may have done one, maybe two perfect laps in my entire career. And I'd say that maybe one I can definitely think of. Maybe two, yeah. So, but everything else has had even the smallest niggle in it. So that's the thing, is to not fool yourself and be analytical and just say, okay, right. You know, when you're inside the car, you've got to remember exactly what happened at the previous lap for that same corner. So what's the changes? Did I brake a tiny bit too early? Will the car take a tiny bit more? But when you say tiny bit more, not another 1.5 inches on the throttle, because that's probably over the top. So it's just about you get to, let's say, hopefully being very, very quick. And then it's really a question of kind of marginal gains. It's like just nibbling away, trying to make you better. But also, I imagine it's the same with club racing, but once you start getting into aerodynamics and everything, you've got to be thinking as well, technically. And that's where it's great to have a very good feel, but also a very good engineer that you can work with, and he can translate some of the gobble that I'm coming out with afterwards, etc. You know, but it's that need, and it's that need and that passion, that desire to want to be better, or want to be faster. That's the thing that why you do lap after lap after lap, and you're thinking, I found something. Now, conversely, I've had days of testing where it seems to have just got slower. You know, whatever you do, and maybe then mistakes start creeping in because there's the frustration of going, how could I make this up and go even faster? So, you know, it's not always a dream out there. It's sometimes you're trying new things and they don't work, you know, or I haven't figured it out or whatever. There's a lot of pain in this game if you're trying to come through. It takes a lot. It really, really takes a lot. By the time you get to the track, you've kind of earned being there. And that, for me, that's what it's always been about. That focus of saying it's taken this much to get here, and now I am so hopefully tuned in to getting pole or to winning the race or trying to win the race with whatever I've got. And then when you hear the engine starting up, and when it's not just the noise, the vibrations coming through you, there's people running around. It's that moment in time. It's that focus. And this is the crescendo of all those feelings and taking up and soaking up everything that top level motor racing is about, with very clever people around. And it's that moment in time when it's now. And that's something in my life that I've been very, very grateful for. To be quite honest, you know, outside my life of motor racing, is that I get a bit frustrated with some opportunities I'm trying to put together, etc., because there isn't that immediacy, that reaction, that it means everything. And when you're seeing people sit on the fence about something or ponder too much, it's not the environment that I've kind of been used to. This has been, and I guess I've been terribly lucky to experience that. But again, I think that it's that kind of adventure, that kind of moment in time that my own character is built for. Those things kind of, I was suited to motor racing, in my opinion, for some of those things. And then you learn how to go on. But different people have got different characters in this game. I always looked at Damon. Damon is somebody who can really soak up pressure. You know, is very analytical, very, very fast, but he's quite calm. Yeah, he has got temper, don't worry. But he's kind of calm. I'm probably more excitable, if you like. You know, I'm the guy who's going to go round the outside of 3 cars and either make it and just go, what a hero, or smash it into the wall and go, what a donut, you know? so I do think that Damon's approach has been more intelligent than mine. But it's those moments that I live for in motor racing, is that if I don't believe I've been being brave when I've produced some of these manoeuvres. I believe I could do it. And that's the thing. So, you know, to have something that you're that confident about, you know, I have been wrong once or twice. He said, well, I can have. But they're all those things, and they're inherent for me for the real motor racing. And I swear to you on this one, I was an incredibly fair driver, absolutely fair. I could not get any fun out of winning if I've nerved somebody off. However, if they started something, they'd get it back, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you've got to look after yourself on the track, haven't you? Because you can be bullied otherwise. So,
well, if you let it be known that you're going to be the one who backs out, then they'll tear you apart.
Yeah. Go on then, tell us a little bit more. So you're on your progression. So we're Formula 3 into Formula 3000 yet, I think.
Formula 3000 was amazing. Absolutely amazing. Those cars were fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Really fast. But the budgets were just astronomical. And as I got there, we'd had this huge economic problem. The Black Monday thing of 87 affected, because I was in F3 in 87, they affected any chance of budgets in 88. But I hadn't done too bad. I'd been earning pretty good money, actually, in Formula 3. And I'd invested in property and actually made a lot more, which is great. And it was really handy because we had a house that was worth, you know, quite a lot of money in 88 by the time of that. And that came in really handy because I used that to pay to get into Formula 3000, which Karen was really pleased about.
I was going to say, how did that go down?
She understood. It's we were both on a mission, and you know, I'm teasing, but she was just saying, well, yeah, we need to be in Formula 3000, so you know, we'll get another house one day or whatever. So that was it. I wrote a check to Route against the house, and that got me in the Route. Now, there was no way the check I wrote could possibly cover what the actual budget was for it. But Ron Toronak wanted me in the team. It was massively subsidised. It still took the house to do it. But the other reason I got it was that people weren't even qualifying the Route that year. Yeah, so it was a real dog of a car. Now I'm thinking, okay, right, it gets me into Formula 3000. If I put that car on the grid all 3 times, then I'm winning my own race. I'm not going to be able to say Jean Alesi or any of the others at the front of the grid in the loaners or whatever. I can't. But where I can win is reputational. Exactly what I did. I put it midfield. So that kind of proved the point. Yeah. And people were going, Jesus, I mean, even Damon come up to me. He was following me at one particular point. He said, mate, he actually said to me, are you putting that on? So I said, no, that's how bad the car is. And this was a diesel taking, you know, some of the high speed stuff flat. But the car kind of wasn't real keen on doing that. But it's your chance. A chance for me to get out and moan. Oh, it's the car. Oh, you've got to, if this is a career, I'm not saying this, I'm not being derogatory to club races or whatever, but this is quite fatalistic. And again, I hope people understand that I mean this, but I didn't really want to get hurt and I didn't really want to get killed. But the thing was, if it happened, it was just unfortunate because I could not back out of anything. It was either do it or don't do it. Yeah. So it was whatever it took. I know that sounds psychotic, but I'm afraid that's what my career was about because there was so little money, so few chances. So you had to do something special. And that, unfortunately, meant going very, very high on the risk profile.
Yeah. we talked about club racing as fun.
Yeah, I absolutely bet your bottom dollar that there are a whole bunch of people at different championships in club level who probably actually got what it takes to come through international motor racing, Yeah. But, that it's all about right time, right place, and actually making that commitment to try and do it, because the odds on doing it is probably the thing that puts most people off attempting to do it, because the odds are stupidly low. I mean, I think we've got like 3 million competition license holders in the world, and now we've got 20 people on the grid in F1. So the odds are fairly nasty,
Yeah, that's not great, is it? So you're cruising through Formula 3000. Seems easy. You're up to speed. You're making the best of this car for sure.
Some other teams wanted to test me, and when I was getting in those cars, I was actually quicker than their drivers. So again, it keeps this, even though people on the track or reading Autosport, it keeps this bubble up inside motor racing and this reputation. Yeah. And that was incredibly important. If you haven't got the budget to be at the front, you can still win reputationally. Yeah. And that's where I was winning races, if you like. Because the opportunities that were presented, it's kind of maxing out on them,
Yep.
Formula 3000, my mate Roger Kalman, who sadly passed away literally just a couple of weeks back.
Oh, sorry.
But he took a huge gamble. He had this Lola in his back garden, and we went out, and I think the first race I was challenging John Lacey for pole position at Spa, and we had to borrow tyres from people. Another team gave us the fuel. Another team gave us the crown wheel and pinion. So it was just, we were getting out there on a wing and a prayer. But again, showing that kind of speed of what we had so many adventures, and he just took the most insane chance on running me because he just had no money, But we proved the point.
Yeah.
And then it was from there that I got noticed to move over to America.
So you did some, was it sports car stuff over there? Is it like...
It's the IMSA, so it's the Le Mans cars.
Yeah.
And we were against the Works Jaguar team, the Works Toyota team, the Works Nissan team, the Works Porsche team. So it was big boy stuff. A lot of very, very well-known drivers. And that was to get this opportunity of going out there. I mean, again, still no money. Scrabbling around trying to find your own expenses. House was saying goodbye. So it's, again, whatever it took. But I got out there and won the first race, led the second by miles, pole position on the third one. Quite proud of that because that pole position time stood for over 10 years.
Really?
Yeah, so even though the cars obviously got better, nobody could take the pole away. So that was really cool. Then we just kept going really quick and showing it that, again, we had no money. But reputationally, keep giving a light headbutt to the major works teams and just say, look what we're doing on $300,000 as opposed to 15 to 20 million that they were running on. What great people to race against. There was no malice there. The guys at Jag, the guys at Nissan, all the drivers, the teams, fantastic people out in IMSA.
Yeah.
And it really made it so enjoyable. Great atmosphere. Everybody had fun. I tell you what was so incredibly sweet is that I set, some pole positions and other teams, Jaguar, Nissan, they'd come into the pit lane, and I never saw them do this for anybody else, and they actually clap as I'm coming in.
Really?
Yeah, and kind of, wow. I have got a soppy side to me, actually. And it really meant an awful lot to me. Yeah. I've just been back at the game. That's the emotion. But for me, that human experience, that reward of it's taken so much to do this. So when you're able to do something quite special, and when it's so appreciated, you feel justified, and you feel, yes, it's all been worth it. The oil rigs have been worth it. The walking around the industrial estate, the losing the house, the no money, the debts, everything. Very selfish. It's a very selfish career. There's no question. But it's one that kind of does have incredible highs as well as one or two lows.
Andre Moda, then.
Yeah, well, how lucky was I with that? But look, I mean, I always said I wanted to get to Formula One. And by this time, you have to remember, I was now like 30, 31 years old. So, nobody's exactly, even after America. All right, I did stand a chance with footwork, actually, and actually with Tyrrell. But I think Ken was actually quite close to signing me, but then something else happened, so I couldn't get in there. And remembering, I don't have sponsorship. There's no money. Footwork really wanted me, which was John Wickham was the team manager, and John was pushing Jackie Oliver to put me in the car. So I did a bunch of tests, but again, it just never actually happened, unfortunately. And so I guess third guy in the cherry was Andrea Moda. Now I knew they weren't in very good shape, but I kind of thought, okay, this is going to be another route job, you know? So you can't qualify. Perry, you can bite through your tongue, put it on the grid. No, we were so bad. I mean, we weren't just slow, we were dangerous. It was comical, except that it was destroying my career, which wasn't quite so funny. But it's, but you can read all about it in my book, Flat Out, Flat Broke, normally $9.99, published by Haynes, available in a good bookshop near you or online.
I'll put the link in the show notes, don't we worry. It's a brilliant book, actually, and I wholly recommend it. It's
can you say that again?
I recommend it. It's a great book.
Just one more time. It's inside the top 15 motor racing books of all time, actually. So
really,
I think the book is probably my proudest achievement. Achievement.
You know what? You know what's lovely about the book, though, right? And it has your personality in it, because we're talking here, and but that's how the book comes across as well. It has your same character in it, which is really lovely.
Thanks a lot. I've always felt that there's something in that book for even people who don't follow motor racing, because it's there's a lot of people who go through a lot of things in life, and maybe this validates their journeys or their decisions, or maybe it gives a bit of a kick up of what's it to some of the other people who might be sitting on the fence about a couple of things. But it's just to show, look, if at first things don't go well, then what you should do is walk away from it. No, it's what you should. No, it's to just say, look, keep punching, keep thinking. There was a great Bond line once. It was something like him and a Bond girl were in a really tricky situation, and she said something to him, and he said, trapped, yes. Finished, never. And I thought, yeah, gonna have that on my gravestone.
Yeah, I love that one. That's really good. So everyone get the book. It's great. Whilst Andre Moda wasn't at the front of the grid, it's still a Formula One car.
Yeah.
So you're in a Formula One car. You're in a car. And it's not like these days or whatever, you can buy the old ones and drive around and whatever. This is a current car to go actual racing in period, as it were, at the right time. So how did that feel?
The Andre Moda was when it actually was running. I was lucky, really lucky, to be honest, because it was, I shouldn't have got in it, basically, let alone try to push it, because it just wasn't working correctly. Okay. So, I think that without being over dramatic, honestly, the biggest blessing that both Roberto Moreno and I had at the end of the year was to come out of that
in one piece,
undamaged,
wow, and
alive. Because if the car had been run correctly, we may have been able to race a few races, even on that budget. We may have been able to, but it wasn't run correctly. So there were certain moments in that car where I actually was frightened. And that is a very bad place to be, because that means that you're putting way, way, way too much into the lap of the gods as chance. At the end of the year, Benetton called out, and because Alex Zanardi was ill, and I did some testing, doing some testing for Benny's day. The car, of course, was infinitely faster, but you didn't think you was going to die every corner, And it being run by a proper team with Pat Simmons sitting next to you with a telemetry and going through stuff with Christian, and it was just fantastic. And it was actually Marty Brundle that set that up for me, actually.
Was it?
Yeah. So that was really cool. And that was validation, because I did go out and go very quickly, which was after having like 13 laps in a piece of junk throughout the entire year.
I know.
And then you get in. Now, I wasn't massively fast within 3 laps in the Benetton, so I'm not going to say that. But by the end of the first day, I was pretty quick, and then got quicker and quicker, So it's just a question of then taking it on, and rather than that thing I was talking about earlier, rather than expecting way too much, is slow everything down, see super progress in day 1, and then chip away day 2, day 3, day 4, etc. So that was, but what a thrill. But there was no chance for me to join the team because they had their drivers. Michael was there at the test with me, and it was really funny actually, because I was saying to Mike, I said, look, how are you taking bridge? Because I was testing the active ride suspension. That's why they didn't Michael in it, because it kept going down. So, that's fair enough. So he said, I take bridge flat. So I said, no. So he said, no, it's flat. Now, inside, I've been up against bridge in the Benetton a bunch of times already, and forget flat, which means staying in the same gear, not lifting the throttle and just turning in.
So for the benefit of the people who don't know bridge, because it's not a current corner anymore, it's Silverstone, it goes downhill a little bit under the bridge, and then it turns right.
And it was massively fast. When I've been out there, forget taking it flat, not only was I lifting off the throttle, most of the time I was just covering the brake a tiny bit, and then turning in and still going, Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
So Michael said this to me, and now this is where me being competitive, I'm going, well, you're obviously no good, Perry. That's why Michael's brilliant. You're a piece of junk. So Michael can take it flat, 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 take it flat. So bang, 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 coming up towards the bridge corner, take it flat. And part of my brain is going, no, don't do that. But the other part's saying, shut up, take it flat, So I kind of wedged my foot into the accelerator to make sure I couldn't lift it, and just thought, I just got to get the steering right, Well, as soon as I turned in, the thing's gone everywhere. I mean, my hands were moving faster than Bruce Lee in a kung fu movie, It's like, it's going everywhere. The car's gone toward this wall, it's gone toward that wall. Now, there was probably a bit of skill in kicking out the wall, but I think the old Formula One god up there just went, I'm going to help you out today, pal. Because I missed everything. Unbelievable. And I'd scared the daylights out of myself. Anyway, I got myself together, and I thought, well, okay, that proves it can't be taken flat. There's got to be something wrong with the tyres or the tyre pressures or whatever. So I came into the pits. So Pat Simmons has come up to the side of the car. I said, what is it? So I said, Pat, I think we need to check the tyre pressures. They went, okay. No argument. No, okay, fine. Anyway, teams come out, but they've gone a little while, And all of a sudden, Pat's come back to the car, leaning down to me, and he's looked into the cockpit, and he's going, did you have a little moment out there? So I went, no, all good. He said, you sure? So I said, no, everything's fine. Yeah, I wasn't going to tell them, He said, oh, really? He said, well, you see, the only reason I mention it is that on the telemetry, we've got you on full opposite lock at 180 miles an hour. Okay. All right, Pat.
You might have got me.
So I was talking to Michael. He said, I take it flat. That's it. He said, yes, you rockhead. He said he takes it flat when he's on qualifying tyres with no fuel in the car. You, rockhead, are on old race tyres with half a tank of fuel. And I think that probably shows you the separation between Michael and myself, that it was a complete lack of intelligence on my side. Relief to find out. Clearly, of course, Michael was a genius. Of course was, please God, he's somehow recovers from his present terrible injuries. But yeah, Michael was, everybody talks around Michael saying just had the best car. I forget it. He was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So it was great to work with Michael for just a little while.
Because you fulfilled your dream. You were driving a frontline Formula One car.
I wanted to, at each stages, I wanted to get into Formula One, but then I did want to win Grand Prix. Certainly set pole positions for it. That's why I was there. It was kind of a bit heartbreaking, to be quite honest, because it had taken me 10 years of racing to actually get there. And that's without the 2-3 years on the oil rigs as well. Mm. So to get into Formula One and then be made to look like Mickey Mouse on acid was not great. That was really horrible. And then so there was no chance for Benetton afterward. A little bit of testing with Williams, but, really and truly I knew they had their eye on David anyway, Dave Coulthard. So that went to Dave, and then we were finished. That was it. We'd lost the house. We were in massive debt. And so I had to go and organise, coming out of what was near bankruptcy, get the money together again to regroup, which is what I then did. But suddenly you've just been chosen by Lotus to come back, then Chrysler, then all of a sudden Dave Price Racing signed me up alongside Dave Brabham to go into the panels. So suddenly the career's back, and even getting paid, earning a wage, personal sponsors, and that started paying off all the debts, providing a future, and then, of course, coming all the way through to then being picked by Audi. So if you wasn't in Formula One, you wanted to be driving for Audi. Yeah. So again, that level of recognition, was validation for, I have to think about the family as well. It wasn't, I always managed to wheel and deal that we lived in a lovely house, so don't ask me how, but I just did. But cash-wise, it's obviously sometimes just having to borrow 100 quid from a mate of mine that I'd repay in 1 week. And, it was just constant pressure like that. I did okay with the houses, But the Audi thing was fantastic. The DNA of a racer is there with the team owners or the team management or the race drivers or the engineers. It's like they may have, I'm not even sure if they have slightly more time, but it's not kind of as contained as Formula One. It's slightly more accessible. Team to team, drivers to drivers, you tend to find a little bit more time to meet up, have a laugh, and but there's a job to be done. Exactly. But I did enjoy sports car racing. I really did.
I don't think it finished quite how you wanted to. Did it?
Oh yeah. That was when we were coming into racing in 2003. There was myself, Frank Bieler, and Mika Salo. And Mika was fresh out of Toyota Formula One. And Mika used to just deliberately wind me up about how much he was earning for not even driving a Toyota Formula One anymore, But when Frank started the race, I thought I'd go and have a lay down in the back. And all of a sudden, after about 2 hours, suddenly Mika's come into this cabin that I was in. He said, we're out of the race. Now, I've known Mika pretty well. We always wind each other up and have a laugh, but normally Mika's got a bit of a tell. It's like his lip just goes up slightly if he's messing around, yeah? And it was going up. So what are you talking about? He said, there's run out of fuel. We're out of the race, I said, why do you sound like Kimi? Because I can only do one finish. Maybe I speak like this as well, Mika. You speak like this, I speak like this. You can be Kimi, I be Mika. But anyway, so that was it. So we were in the story. Yeah, Frankie had made a terrible mistake, and we were over before Mika and I even got into the race car for Le Mans. So that was it. And then sadly, unfortunately, the following year, I got quite badly injured and really smashed my shoulder up quite badly. And that was it. That was the end of the story. But in the meantime, of course, I had become the man in black because I'd written my book, when was that, 2002, that we had loads of friends there from Formula One and some pals from TV, including Jeremy Clarkson, who was there. And it was kind of there that Jeremy said, look, we're actually bringing Top Gear back because Top Gear had been off air for a real long time by then.
Yeah.
So then they started talking to me about saying, oh, look, we want this kind of secret racing driver and you're going to be dressed in black, because first Stig was in black. So black gloves, black overalls, black crash helmet, black boots, black visor. And we're going to call you the Gimp. I said, no, you're not.
No, you're not. Exactly.
So he said, yes, we are. And they were really serious about it. And I said, no. I said, it's just not going to fit them. And then finally they changed it to the Stig. And I said, yeah, okay, we'll go with that. Yeah. And that's how Stiggy kicked off. And of course, we had no idea how big Top Gear was going to become globally and how big Stiggy was going to be. So that was great fun.
I got a question for you on the Stig stuff related to the driving, actually. Mm-hmm. So they had the wall, How honest were those times? Were you really going for it on those laps, and were they proper laps?
Yeah. The only thing where they messed up when we first started doing it is that when I was out in the real supercars, they thought it'd be a good idea to actually wet the track as some kind of leveler. Now, I did try to explain to them that you can't do that because unless you've got a consistent flow of water so that we can reproduce that to the next supercar so that but they didn't seem to take any notice there. And I really did push and just say, look, this is really silly. It's not quantitative. You can't just randomly put water on a track and then say that's our time from that car. Anyway, they did it. So when I was out in the Zonda and also the Koenigsegg, and I think one of Ferraris or something, we had water on the track, which is whatever. But nonetheless, to answer your question, every single car I was in, every lap was the best that I could do. Yeah, I was really pushing.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Even if I thought I'm going to do one more lap because I think there's another 10th in this, But it was just disappointing I didn't get the clear track with some of the hypercars because I think we would have gone, more clearly, obviously, would have gone a good bit quicker.
One of the lovely things about the concept of the Stig is that he's the real driver who never makes a mistake. It almost takes away...
The wrong guy for that.
Yeah. Says Samir talking to the Stig. But it takes away that the driver question mark about when you're comparing different cars, which is really, really good. Is this car quicker than this one? Well, we'll put in the Stig, and the Stig will drive it as quick as it can go.
That's the idea. We've taken out the variable, So that was... Yeah, I think that was a good move. Clearly, of course, you're still left with variables when there was torrential rain, legitimate rain and stuff. But you just take that as it comes. So it was good fun, but I got bored with it, so I left. They then gave me a great send off with this off the end of an aircraft carrier. So Black Stig was killed. And that's when new slow Stig was brought in. I'm sorry, white Stig.
Yeah, black is much quicker than white.
Totally, of course. So the number one takeaway for me is that, let's assume we're just saying we just want to go racing, but we want to enjoy it. It's about focus, and it's about saying, how can we be better? What have we got? How can we approach this to be even a little bit better? If you're not taking a quantum step, don't get frustrated, but progress is the thing. And be encouraged by any progress that you can make. If you can say, hey, we've even managed to form a bit of a club inside a club and we're buying our tyres together to get a bit of a discount. Or you keep using your imagination. How can we bring the cost down? How can I make sure the car's a bit better? Have I got a pal like Samir who's an engineer I can con him to come down and help me get the car better? I mean, from my own position, don't just instantly think I'm a mega driver and everybody's against me. No, there's maybe work to do. There's always work to do as a driver. Is that how can I approach this just a little bit better? Am I doing it well enough? And anything that makes a difference to the outcome of being on the track, if that outcome is important enough for you, is that identify it and work on it. Again, I just keep returning to what are you looking to get out of this. If you are inherently slow and not very good, and if it's making you miserable, then go do something else. Because it's too much aggravation, Yeah. But if you're slow and you think you can get a bit better, well, if you can accept that as enjoyment, to see that progress. So it's all different things. And if you're mega quick and want to walk along like that big banana, look at me. That's fantastic.
Absolutely. Well, Perry, thank you so much for taking the time. It's an absolutely fascinating conversation, and a real pleasure to have you on the show.
Samir, thanks very much indeed for having me. And a message to you and all your friends and viewers is that I do hope you're able to get back in race cars soon. I hope you're able to go out and have loads of fun and stay safe, and all my very best wishes. Thank you.
What an absolute character Perry is. I hope you found that conversation as fascinating and as insightful, even inspiring, as I did. We joked about it, but his book is actually really, really very good. And if you've not read it, I recommend you check it out. If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and visit us at yourdatadriven.com.